Grid Legends. What a fantastic game so far. From going rookie to the pro leagues is amazing. It's exceptional. At first I was skeptical about the handling in this game, but they nailed it. The game does have an arcade style to it, but that arcade style is not very easy to handle. The different types of vehicles that they do have, all those different vehicles are unique, and it is an experience to have. I've been having an awesome time with this game. It's so fun. It's so fun. I've got a lot of footage of my gameplay, and I feel that there's no need to show all of it, ranging from the beginnings of the Audi all the way to this weird looking four-wheel without a spoiler. What a weird vehicle. Down to this. I mean, I was figuring out how this game worked, and then I started to get comfortable with the way the vehicles turn left and right, the throttle response, braking. What I will say though is that the acceleration and the braking force in this game is much more forgiving compared to, I think, Project Cars 2. If I'm not mistaken, just driving the go-karts at the start of the career is terrible. Terrible in the sense that it's nowhere close to this refined handling that Grid has created. But yet again, Project Cars 2 and Assetto Corsa are simulation racing games. This could be considered as a simulation racing game, but I would say it's more of an arcade, just because of how forgiving the handling model is in this game. Alright, so we continue forward. Let's see here. Okay, day 2, that is now starting game in Moscow with the Mark 1. This was very interesting. It was just a little bit more slippery compared to rain conditions. But to brake felt like you was braking in summer, if that made sense. You didn't feel accelerated, that the car was more easy to spin out. So that was something to get adjusted to when driving in snowy conditions. The Ford GT. When I got my hands on the Ford GT, I was not happy with the way this car was handling. It felt like a V8 that was floating on the road. And I hate it when a car floats, because then you get to experience terrible crashes or terrible recovery of the vehicle over and over again. So it felt like I was fighting the vehicle as opposed to competing in the race. Once I dialed the handling to what I felt was appropriate, stiffening up the suspension, and so I think it was here. Nope. Okay, but I'll show you on the screen. So the Ford GT was amazing to drive. I enjoyed driving this car in this game. Oh, the boost on this car from the turbos was exceptional. Just hitting that boost and just shifting just before reaching or just tipping over the red line mark, that was so satisfying, and this car wanted to keep on building speed. It didn't want to end. It felt like it was never ending. Now, the trophy trucks, what a nightmare this was. I had no clue how the handling worked in this, on this particular vehicle. Even though I understood that the car would sag to the opposite direction to where he was turning, I just did not like having to stretch the gears, unless the car likes to stretch the gears and you're building up speed and doesn't want to stop. Alright, so after the trophy truck race, then we started with the Ford GT again. This track, I would say, was amazing to drive on. This was exceptional. But I did make a lot of errors. I did retry many times, but once I understood yet again, I was able to understand the track layout and then drive very, very well. I think, let's see here, I came sixth. I think. Yeah, came sixth. But you're gonna see that it gets much more harder from here on out. When I was racing at the time, I didn't felt like the difficulty was increasing. I felt like it was just simple. Going on to the Mitsubishi, this car gave me so many memories of Juiced and that Mitsubishi. It handled very, very similar to Juiced. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but I think it was the same. You'll see here, right here, I've got gear ratio short, just because of how I like to drive the Mitsubishi all-wheel drive vehicles, especially from Juiced. So the springs, dampers, anti-roll bars were to the firmer side, but not all the way firm, and then I left the brake bias to center, thinking that because it was an all-wheel drive vehicle, the brake bias needed to be centered 50-50 or more or less spread even, when it was 60-40 depending on how this game worked on its sliders. Racing was awesome. I loved every single bit of this vehicle. I did drive like a maniac. Terrible driving skills. However, we came, let's see here. Yikes! Third. Okay, so could have gotten first if I continued retrying, but I felt like it was a waste of time, so I continued on to the next race, which was this Ford GT. Wow, what an exceptional vehicle this was. I didn't expect this vehicle to handle so well on this track, even though I guessed the settings. When I set the gear ratio to be centered, let's see here. I had the springs on the firmer side. Dampers, I think I left to the full setting on firm. Yep, I did do that. Anti-roll bars, I think I pushed it also all the way to the firm setting, but brake bias again a little bit more to the front as opposed to the rear. This was a bit different to the previous GT. Again, multiple retries, and we came. What position did I get? I think ninth. No, I don't think so. Okay, we came second, I think. Yes, I did come second, yeah. Good race, I must say. I really enjoyed driving this vehicle. I didn't realize I was driving on the Australian racetrack, but looking at how this vehicle looked, it gave me Juiced vibes. So I drove this vehicle the way I would have Juiced. Of course, that did come with many errors here because the rain conditions were totally different on this vehicle. Multiple crash outs, I would say, and I think this was the vehicle that I experienced terrible handling with recurring crashes. Let's see, pretty sure I can put it up on at some point, where the steering wheel and the suspension lights came on. Yeah. Then, once we finished this race, I mean first place, that was exceptional after many tries, I will say. Did I care? No. In fact, I came second, but I didn't care. Alright? I did not care. The Porsche 911 Carrera RSR, I was so confused with the way this car was driving. I felt like the clutch was not appropriate for this vehicle. It hanged for every shift. And for some reason, it really likes to redline. There again, here's the settings for the tuning of this vehicle. With this car, once I understood how this vehicle likes to be driven, or I say what I was comfortable with, it was good. It was good. Surprisingly to see that I had to carry the team here because Yumi had a blowout on a tire during this race, already in fact at the start of the race, and I would say driving this vehicle was not that great. I did not like the way this car was handling. It likes to float in certain circumstances, and then in others it has a lot of downforce and you can just flat out take the turns. And in others, you know, I just spun out there, right there with the Alpina, smashed it to that, and had to restart over and over again. As a result, with many retries, we got... I think I came 4th? No, I came 3rd, but I wasn't really too keen on trying to retry thereafter, so I just continued. Then I was very disappointed to see that there are electric vehicles. Bear in mind, I did not look at the reviews or look at the advertisements for this game. I went in completely blind, so when I saw that we were racing with electric vehicles, I was horrified, absolutely horrified. And especially now when you drive electric vehicles, when you go through boost zones, you get a boost on your vehicle. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. It was horrendous, absolutely horrendous to drive this vehicle. But I will say, flat out, this car can handle very well when speeding. No shifting, leaving everything centered, I think, except for the anti-roll bars, brake bias, and okay, so anti-roll bars, brake bias on the firmer side, and then springs I put on the firmer side, but the dampers I left on the softer side. I think that was a good choice that I made for the tuning of this vehicle, because once I understood the track layout, understood how electric cars worked and the boost zones when racing electric cars, and we finished off 3rd, maybe 4th, 2nd. Okay, right behind Valentine. It was a good race, I will say. It was a good race after winning tries and terrible debt that I had to pay. We move on to the final race. This car, it was exceptional. Power sliding on this track was fun, absolutely fun. At the beginning, terrible crash outs, I will say, absolutely horrendous. But dialing it back in, I will say I drove like a maniac. I was not abiding to the rules here. I was just flat out bashing into the rear bumper of Laurie here and their teammate. But once I was in first place, damn, no one could catch me. Really, no one could catch me. I'm gonna leave a replay of this specific race, and I hope you guys enjoy this. I'm gonna leave this at part 1. Please comment on whether the translations that I will be adding for this video is appropriate. Just keep in mind that I am using a program to sort the subtitles out on its own. I have not let anyone review the translation of the different languages besides English, which I will be able to do. If the translation is not correct or just doesn't seem right, you know, just let it be. Enjoy this replay of me enjoying my ride in the Ford GT. Cheers. See you in the next one.